Hello and welcome to a special feature for the overseas release, the Storm Code Extreme. When you hear Pearl Code, you might think Code Black or Dark Code, but this one is called Extreme for a reason. While it does feature the same Rad 4 core the code line is known for, the cover stock formula is NRG2. That's something we haven't seen stateside before. However, with Roto's microtracks being their version of regular NRG, usually Roto versions are a little stronger, so thinking exotic gem should get you very close to a stateside comparison for reference. I'm also going to try something a bit different here. With all the things going on at the same time in my videos, I pack information in, I talk quickly, shots are being thrown repeatedly, there's a lot of information on the screen, it can be really hard to follow. I've even had a few issues here lately watching stuff back and missing mistakes that I've made that have resulted in a few videos being taken down, corrected, and re-uploaded. So I'm going to show some shots with no commentary, just the shots and info on the screen, then go back through the same shots again in slow-mo while I break it down. Please let me know how you feel about it. To preface, Angel is on the Kegel Chromium lane condition. It's a challenge pattern at just under a 7-to-1 ratio, 42 feet, 25.5 mils, not as easy as a house shot, but not as difficult as a sport pattern, so it keeps you honest but isn't too punishing. The Code Extreme is very strong and heavy rolling. She gave up on trying to play straighter pretty quickly. The Rad 4 core is one of the strongest in the catalog, so not only does it roll strongly and rev quickly, the NRG cover is known for being strong and early as well, and with NRG2 being an even stronger version, the Extreme hits the lane wanting to go now. However, the factory polish tries to balance it by getting it to push before finishing with a surprising amount of shape for a ball that's trying so hard to move off her hand. It also manages to be very continuous as well. Stronger balls like this can burn up unless they're on a ton of length and volume. That's typically why we don't see many stateside, because they can be condition specific. The overseas market loves the stronger stuff, however, so they see a lot of these super strong covers. The shiny big formula pearls are a unique look. Again, I'm not into cover designators like pearl, hybrid, or solid being used to describe a reaction. You can't say pearl when you mean long and flippy, because this ball isn't in the same universe as an RSTX2 or Rubicon UC2. However, the different versions can be used in combination with different cover formulas to produce different looks and reactions. The Omega Crux was a pearl, but one of the earliest, strongest, and smoothest balls I've ever thrown, and while the RSTX2 is one of the longest and sharpest I've ever thrown. Vastly different cover strengths though, and when you also release them at different surfaces, that's tons of variation that's used to create different shapes. The Code Extreme in particular gets to a place you can't get to by just polishing a solid version of this same ball or adding surface to a weaker ball. Even shiny, it gets a lot of traction. You can see it dig and slow down so that when it hits the back end, it's ready to move. That's why it's not jerking and stopping. Sometimes weaker ASIMs can glide down the lane, hit the back end, and then roll out because they aren't getting the traction they need to stabilize and be ready to hook when they get to the friction. Instead, they're gliding too far, then they hit hard friction while they're still skidding and burn up all their energy trying to make the turn at the last second. Even though the Extreme is still getting down the lane far enough to keep it from being too early, you can see it slow down, start to stabilize, stop going right, and kind of pause. So instead of still going right, when it hits the back end, it's going straight into it. Then it hits friction and is ready to pick up and move. There's one shot here that I'm going to show a couple times to illustrate. She gets it a little too far outside, and remember, challenge pattern, so there is an out of bounds. It's not a hard one, but it's there. But since she gets it a little too far out, it does skid too far. It doesn't have a chance to stabilize, so it straightens out instead of picking up and continuing. However, the strength of the cover gets it at least back to the pocket to mix them up. A weaker ball wouldn't have gotten back from there and would probably have been a 2/8 or a bucket at best. Moving on to Preface Part 2, I'm going to compare it here to the new Absolute. Angel just hit it with a bit of React-A-Scuff to break the shine, so while it's not shiny, React-A-Gloss to begin with is a finer or smoother surface than the 1500 grit polish of the Code Extreme, so we're close enough. While the Absolute is a hybrid, also asymmetric, and very similar on core strength, it's a much weaker cover stock formula in R2S Deep, and that's quite obvious. You can see that it goes longer and is smoother. She has to play a straighter line, it doesn't start hooking nearly as early, and while it's not rolling out, it is trying to pick up and continue, it just doesn't have the teeth or the strength. While it's rolling and revving, you can see that it's not quite gripping. It's not sailing, but this probably isn't the choice for the Fresh on this pattern anyway. It looks like it'd be a great step down from the Extreme when the lanes get too dry. However, the other interesting thing about stronger shiny covers, like is on the Extreme, is that they can sometimes be better on transition or burn than weaker covers because they're less responsive. If you remember the Parallax, that also had a technically very strong cover stock, but also very smooth. I've had more success with it on drier conditions than heavier ones because it gets traction early and then is really controllable. Sometimes weaker covers can just be too sharp or responsive on drier conditions, leading to the ever-persistent, "why does my low-end ball out-hook my high-end ball" comments. It's not out-hooking it, it's out-responding it. You can see here that while on paper, the Absolute is technically the cleaner and sharper or more responsive ball, when it doesn't have the friction to move, it can't. The Code Extreme, because of the extra strength, creates its own friction. It doesn't have to rely on dry boards as much because it's getting traction through the oil rather than sliding on it. So when you get on more medium-heavy conditions like this, you can see that, in fact, the stronger ball is out-hooking the weaker ball and even out-shaping or out-responding it because it has the oil volume it needs to get down the lane and keep it from hooking too early. This is why understanding cover stock formulas and strengths is critical to understanding ball reaction at a higher level. The overseas market is different. They get a lot more releases than we do, but in a lot smaller batches. While you can't get them in pro shops, you can find some on Bowler's Mart, follow my link in the description, or you can check out SRGBBFS on Facebook if you find one that you're interested in. Remember to use my code ROSEDAL10 at checkout at CoolWick.com. Check out my YouTube memberships. Thanks to my outstanding members. Thank you for watching, and may the strikes be with you.